You are listening to Why Such a Fuss podcast, sponsored by CVG Solutions, with your host, Cristina Vannini-Goodchild, and guests.
Welcome to today's episode with me, Cristina Vannini-Goodchild from CVG Solutions, Editor Protection Consultancy, and
I'm Sona Mehta here. Thank you for having me, Cristina. I am a senior lecturer at City St George's, which is part of the University of London, and I am a consultant solicitor as well.
Thank you very much, Sona. I thought we'll change a little bit and let you introduce yourself since you're now a regular guest. So this actually is the third episode that we are dedicating to the DPO role. So in a couple of previous two episodes, Sona and I explored who can do the role of the DPO and also the pros and cons of internal versus external DPO. So if you're interested, please go and grab those. So in this episode, we're actually going to cover the duties of the DPO, which are actually mandated by the regulation because it is a statutory role. So what that means is that it's not the organization that establishes what those duties are, is actually the regulation that says that, in particularly Article 39, doesn't it?
It does, and I have Article 39 in front of me. But I know last time we talked about the need for that independence of a DPO. Yes. And if I just elaborate on what Article 39 says, the DPO is there to monitor and effectively improve GDPR compliance. So that really does include like ensuring policies are in place and, you know, people are aware of those policies, as well as delegating responsibility under those policies. You know, is there someone to whom complaints can be directed? You know, that sort of thing. Is there a mailbox that's monitored, or is it just an empty mailbox which is meaningless? Or also, as I said, raising awareness of GDPR generally, making sure people are aware where to whom they can flag up any data protection concerns. Conducting or overseeing training for data protection, conducting internal GDPR audits would fall into that general monitoring, because how can you monitor if you don't know what's going on? Yeah. Also, advising on data protection impact assessments. So when there's, you know, high risk processing or large scale processing, you know, if there's lots of processing, handling of data that is sensitive or covers people's ethnicity or sexual orientation, that's classed as special category data. It needs that extra layer of protection, for which you need to do this data protection impact assessment, which is really, have you thought about the individual's rights? You know, are you processing data for the sake of it, or are you mindful, are there protections in place for the individuals? You know, what harm could your processing do to the individuals? And, you know, there's the need to cooperate and liaise with the commissioner, the independent, you know, the information commissioner. That's another role of a data protection officer. Yeah. That, as you said, is mandated by the courts, by regulations.
Yes. Yes, and you know, and also, you know, general advice and guidance, you know, to the controller or the process, because sometimes processing is a DPO. So, you know, in general situations, but what I find, so while the way the regulation sort of puts it is that the DPO sort of sits, you know, on the side, so to speak. Is not actually involved in the nitty gritty of the organization. And what I find is that actually the DPO needs to be, you know, it needs to understand that, and And it's not just about DPIAs, I get involved into LIAs, legitimate interest assessment, for example. I also get involved in transfer risk assessment, third-party due diligence, or checking and ensuring that data processing agreements are in place with third parties. I get involved with DSARs in terms of the reduction, of the data.
Yeah.
Data breaches. I get pulled into data breach. I mean, the list goes on. Do you know what I mean? So although it gets the impression, if you read Article 39, it gives the impression that the DPO, do you know what I mean, just sits there,
Exactly. Yes.
like a orchestra conductor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all. But actually, in reality, it's quite an intensive role. It can be quite involved, although the DPO doesn't make decision or decides how certain data is processed, but you need to roll your sleeves in that sense in terms of getting involved so that you can provide the right guidance, the right advice at the right point.
Exactly. Yes. And I think this is why it's so important to know the business.
Yes.
Right. If you don't know what people are doing with the data,
yes,
and you haven't, as a DPO or any sort of data protection advisor, if you haven't understood or asked the right questions and followed the data and done that data mapping to identify where the data's gone from being collected, how are you able to monitor how it's being used? How are you able to advise the business on whether the use is correct or not? And your role is there as an advisor. I mean, ultimately it's for the business to take the call, but you have a responsibility to identify there's a risk or there isn't a risk, or what level the risk is. And we've covered this before in terms of there are reasons, authorizations for which you can process data under the regulations. There are only specified reasons, right? If you're choosing as a business, as an organization, to process data and you're not sure if it falls under one of those reasons, you need to talk to the DPO.
Yes.
And that's where, your legitimate interest assessment comes in. If the data is going overseas, does your DPO know about it? Have you factored it in? Where is it going? That's a whole topic, for another day. There are all sorts of, rabbit holes that you can go down. But fundamentally, as you said, as a DPO, you need to understand the data, not just the data, but also what is being done with the data and by whom.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's really vital that you involved your DPO in various sort of meetings, especially strategic kind of meetings, because, there is the tendency, we all get excited, there is a new toy, a new IT, a new AI, we all get excited about this human nature, without fully, the role of the DPO is not to stop you from innovation, from automation or anything like that. It's there to actually ensure that whatever automation you do, whatever innovation you're doing it right. Okay, you're doing it, in following the right procedures, following the right processes, putting in place the right safeguards. So it's there to actually support you and guide you to ensure that, it doesn't come back and bite you later on.
Absolutely.
So I see the DPO as an enabler.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think that for some reason, many organizations don't see that, don't appreciate that at all. They actually see the opposite. We need to do a DPIA before we got to. But if you had involved your DPO from the very, very start, there might be a situation where you don't need a DPIA. Do you see what I mean? Where the DPO can guide you, in certain direction that it might not needed.
Absolutely.
Or it might be needed, but it's not as big as you think it is. Do you see what I mean? It's and so your DPO actually can be your greatest ally especially in any transformation. And so embrace it. That's my recommendation. Embrace it. Make sure that they're part of the leadership team. Bring them in. Seek their counsel and involve them.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd liken this to when I used to work in-house and do a lot of support the marketing team. And
Yeah.
one of my first jobs was exactly this, trying to understand what the marketing team wanted to do with information or with adverts or whatever. And if the material, the advert was due to go in the print tomorrow, and I only found out about it, 5 hours before the press did. I mean, it was very difficult for me to not be the person who said no if there was an issue.
Yes.
I mean, my job is to flag up issues, isn't it?
Yes.
Just like a DPO. But if I'd have been told of the advert when it was put to the marketing agency, I could have had some input.
Yes.
And it's a learning curve, isn't it? I think it's engaging the business to that way of thinking, that we really aren't the no people. We don't want to be the no people. It's in our interest to make the business work and grow and thrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're on the same team, really.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. I never say no. I always say, let's have a look.
Yes.
Yeah.
But obviously, the more notice you have,
the
more scope you have to kind of identify quick solutions, or perhaps there are no problems at all. And this is where the training comes in. The more you know, the more aware you are in how to implement tools, how to use data without any issues.
That's right. Yeah. Sona, a pleasure talking to you as always. I mean, we could talk for hours.
We could, Cristina. I think it's about time to pull the plug. Thank you so much, Cristina.
You're very welcome. Now, if any of you are interested, Sona can be reached via LinkedIn. Just search for Sona Mehta. And if you would like to get in touch with me, I can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for CVG Solutions, or alternatively email me at info@cvgsolutions.co.uk. Thank you for listening.